everyone. Welcome to the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe, and today I'm here with BDSM performer Kristopher Koffin. Sorry about that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I'm also from the Midwest, and anyone who's doing any sort of BDSM in the Midwest, I'm already interested in. But I saw you did a live BDSM live sex show. I think it was maybe like 3 or 4 months ago.
You have a very good memory. Yes, I forgot about that
I
almost.
mean, that's the shit I feel like I got into this industry for because I like saw people doing live sex shows. I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to do. So that you're doing that in Chicago is just so fucking cool.
It's a lot of fun. Doing another one, I believe in February of
Oh, really?
2023. Yeah.
So what's kind of like the legality with that with the city of Chicago? Because in San Francisco, it has to be like literally like a speakeasy sort of thing. It's like in a
hmm
basement of a shop and tickets were like well over $100. Are Chicago laws a little bit more lenient?
they are in some aspects, but in other aspects, not so. Where the performance that I hosted a few months ago was totally okay. You couldn't sell tickets. You could take donations, which I
Oh,
feel I feel like that's pretty par for the course for a lot of working around sex work. But yeah, we couldn't say we're selling tickets. We're saying a suggested donation for a certain amount of money. And the only issue with it's not a law. It's a that was at a dungeon. I think it's the oldest pansexual dungeon in Chicago,
oh,
um,
really?
or Midwest possibly. I'm not entirely sure.
How old
And
is it?
it's over 50 years.
Oh, wow. That's
I
crazy for
might
the Midwest.
I could be wrong. I know they're partnered with another dungeon here. That's actually 3 blocks away from my apartment. But they separated about 10 years ago, so I don't know the full story. But it's a very well curated dungeon. I can't mention the name of it, but um, yeah, the only it's not a law, but something I respect as a member is they don't allow anything to be monetized. So I can't shoot porn there. I would love to,
hmm
because it's a really beautiful space, but you have like a med vet area in the basement, and it's like everything that you'd expect a dungeon to have.
I mean, just that there's dungeons that exist in the Midwest, I feel like is such a rarity. I'm originally from, do you know where Holland, Michigan is?
I've heard of it. I lived in
So,
Detroit briefly.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go basically just up the coast towards Michigan, it's like two
hmm
hours north of Chicago. So
Okay.
I grew up like BDSM's always been like my sexuality, but I didn't really like have terms to put it with.
hmm
Because I was like, are you originally from the Midwest?
No, I'm originally from New York City. Then I moved
Oh, okay.
to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
That's where I am now.
where- okay.
Yeah.
I won't ask you because we're where you are exactly, but I I lived in Oakland for 17 years after leaving New York City.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I lived in Oakland for 8. I'm in the city now. Basically, the pandemic had to happen and I could finally afford to go to the city. So,
Yeah, I think some things were oddly positive about the pandemic, but
yeah, it's, I think I get, at least as a BDSM performer and like producer now, I can appreciate all these things more because I
Mhm.
feel like for so long, everything was just so shut down that like I didn't perform for like a year and a half, I think.
During
The
the
pandemic.
pandemic,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, same here. I had a small bubble of people I performed with,
hmm
and we all stayed in contact. I guess kind of how what was that called? I'm kind of glad I'm forgetting this. All the terminology behind it, like people would have their group of friends that they would hang out with, not a polycule. That's something totally different.
um,
But a
a
little
bubble.
bubble, a bubble.
Yeah.
Yes, there we
Yeah.
go. So we had a porn creator bubble that
Oh, that's so nice.
so we all checked in, we did COVID tests, and were able to continue to create. We had like a very brief moral dilemma. Then we're like, it's fine. We're checking in with each other. We're being responsible. We're otherwise everybody was quarantining. And it was just kind of interesting to get together and make filthy porn during
I
while.
know, like I took a year off from performing, and everyone in my bubble was just my roommates and their partners, so no one was in porn. So just being able to go back and have your first shoot, my first scene was like a threesome or foursome, where it was just
Mhm.
like, wow, I haven't like touched another person in so long, and now I have like an ass on my face like 5 minutes, and
Oh
you're
yeah,
just like,
no,
oh yeah, okay, this is
yeah,
what it
because
is.
no, seriously, I think a couple of months off just out of precaution, and
Yeah.
not and most everybody was didn't know it was happening yet.
For
So
real, yeah. The first like
so
year, it was still so up in the air of just like, is there
sure,
gonna be a vaccine? How serious is it if you get it?
yeah, exactly. It was very like anything. I mean, it was it's trying to navigate it and figure out what was right and responsible. And but yeah, going from having a primary partner who I was lucky enough to live with and perform with,
Mhm.
that made it a lot easier. And but yeah, going from that to like filming an orgy or
Yeah.
or foursome, where I'm like, I want normalcy back, whatever that normalcy is, and my form of normalcy, which is not normal to most people.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that being especially a BDSM producer and performer makes a little easier is you're used to all these high protocols anyway. So you're like,
mhm.
okay, a COVID test before, that's fine, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think it goes along with consent. I mean,
Hmm.
um, you don't want to risk anybody's health and safety,
For
and
sure.
that definitely just tied into general consent with me. Like
Yeah, completely agree. So did you start like producing and performing in Chicago, or were you doing that when you lived
I
in the Bay as well, or even before that?
even before that, but I I started as um, a photographer. Um,
Okay.
Actually, to back that up a little bit, I started as a full service provider. Am I okay to talk about this?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
100%.
okay, great.
So I've had people from all over the world on this. So there's places where the legality of porn is way more criminalized than full service
Mhm.
sex work, like Australia, where full service sex work, there's barely any regulation to it. But porn, there's way more regulation. So it's actually more illegal to shoot porn in parts of Australia than it is to actually do full service sex work.
That's really interesting.
It also
I
like
didn't know that.
I'm Dutch American, obviously being from a town named Holland. So when I go to the
Mhm.
Netherlands, obviously there's full service sex work everywhere. And it's almost
Right.
like the weird thing to be the porn performer amongst that, where it's like, oh, you do that? Oh,
Yeah.
so feel
Yeah.
free.
Okay. Um, I would say my first endeavor was at an age that was too early, at a necessity, and
Mm,
I had done that. I won't say the age, but it was young. And
hmm.
then I kind of put that aside, and I got a long story. I was homeless for a while, pulled myself up, uh,
Yeah.
went to college, and started. Somebody approached me as a uh, to just take nude photographs of, which um, I guess an art model to a degree,
Yeah.
which that's how it was approached. Then it's like, well, I can pay you a bit more if you do this, and a bit more if we perform together. And this is back in the day of everything was on film.
Hmm.
And um, so I guess that was the beginning, but I didn't really start doing it. Besides, did a lot of fetish photography in New York, with people like Kembra Pfahler and so underground cinema
Hmm.
transgression people. And I wouldn't really classify that as porn necessarily, but it was
Yeah.
definitely sexually charged performance art and very transgressive. And but going full momentum happened in the San Francisco Bay Area. About 4 years ago.
Okay. When did you move to the Bay? What year was that?
That was, I want to say 2005 or
Oh,
2006, in the
okay.
winter of. And so I was there for quite a while. And
So it was
went
like
back.
it was like when the whole poor movement was really starting to pick up here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, which I quickly, at the time, my partner was a fetish model and performer. And so, yeah, it exposed me to a lot of different avenues and things to dive into. And I love that about San Francisco, is how sex and kink positive it is for the most part.
Yeah,
Uh,
I feel kind of sad about it because I feel like so much of it's gone now.
yeah,
Just because so much
yeah,
has been priced out, and it's like, yeah, it's so weird to think like I moved here because I got hired as a cam model at Kink, and then it was like, okay, I'm moving to the Bay to become a porn star. And there were so many people doing that now. And now it's just like, if someone did that, that'd be honestly laughable. It's like, why would you move here for that?
oh yeah. I mean, I left fairly recently, so it's I was watching the toll that gentrification obviously was
Yeah.
taking, and even I try to. I mean, we lost. I still say we, even though I live in Chicago now. The stud, like, what was that, a year
Yeah.
ago, 2 years ago?
My fiance and I drive by all the time. It's just some gray ass building now. It's just like
So sad.
so fucking sad. But like also I think losing, have you ever been to the Center of Sex and Culture?
I have not. I've always wanted to.
Yeah, that got closed down, I think 5 years ago.
Okay.
It was like the largest sexual library in the country, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And it's just like now, I think it's in storage somewhere, but it's just like so sad that all these places are just gone. And I think it's literally empty. We drive by it all the time. I'm just like, I had a gangbang there once and it's just empty now.
And now it's just an empty, and it's
Yeah,
a
it's just
memory.
empty across from a Pete's Coffee.
Of course. Yeah. Uh, um, yeah, I live only a few blocks away from the Leather Archives and Museum in
Oh,
Chicago.
it's so cool that that exists in Chicago.
It is. I had no idea how close I was moving to it when I moved here. I knew that it was in Chicago, and I went to walk to the grocery store one day, and it doesn't say Leather Archives. There's big LANM outside. I'm like, this is literally 2.5, 3 blocks from my apartment. I'm like, this can't be the actual Leather Archives and Museum. And I went in. I'm like, it is. It totally is.
It's destiny.
It really felt like destiny.
Yeah, I feel
But
like Chicago has such like a long rooted history of like porn and stuff that's like really deep if you dig for it. Like
yeah, definitely.
Playboy started there. There's the original Playboy mansion somewhere in Chicago.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like where it all actually started.
Okay.
I think we all always think of it as LA and all that stuff because it's kind of what it's been in popular culture, but I think it started in like the
Right.
50s in Chicago.
There's so much that started in Chicago as far as like bands and
Mm-hmm.
actors, like non-pornographic actors, and a lot of my friends who are pornographic actors are from here, and I've recently found out, and it's a very interesting town, because I feel like the pretense of not to knock LA or New York, I can knock New York because I'm originally from there.
Yeah, you can talk shit about either of them. I'm fine.
Okay, all
I
right,
live in San Francisco. Obviously, we can talk
all
shit
right,
about LA like all
yeah,
day.
fair enough, yeah, exactly. Um, the pretense is a bit. I nearly moved to LA
Mm,
several times, and I do love much of it. I love North Hollywood. I have a lot of friends there. Um, but the I like dressing up, looking looking good when I go out. But
yeah.
sometimes I want to get the mail or a cup of coffee, with not putting my all into it and looking like I'm going to. And I just felt like I always had to be on there. And New York was the same, depending on the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
it Chicago has, in my opinion, a lack of that pretense, or pretension, I guess is the right word. Where actually it is a thriving and bustling city with so
Hmm.
much art and culture and amazing public transit system, and which I did miss New York's public transit system, having
Oh
left
yeah,
the
BART
Bay
is
Area.
fucking
Yeah,
terrible. So bad.
the whole stopping running at midnight or taking uni or transferring to buses.
That
And
tripped me out when I first moved here so much that it was like, wait, so everyone goes out to drink at like 9 p.m. here?
mhm,
Because like even being from a small town in Michigan, our bars would close at 2 a.m. So every like all the gay bars are like, oh, you show up at midnight. And here
yeah,
it's just like, oh yeah, you go out at 9 or 8 p.m. and that's just your night. I'm just like, I can't do this. It just doesn't make sense to me.
no. And I used to play in quite a few bands, and I remember one of the first shows I played after moving to the Bay Area was at, I think it was the Elbow Room
Oh
or
yeah.
12 Galaxies. I think it's 12 Galaxies actually, which is in the Mission. And um, my band got asked to headline. We're like, by the original headlining band, and we're like, sure, why
Yeah, it will be
not?
like
And
11, right?
yeah, and then 11 o'clock rolls around, and we're about to go on stage, and the crowd starts to dissipate more and more. I'm like, why are it was 300 people? Why are there 5 people, including the bartender here? And I'm like, oh fuck, it's public transit. I didn't know it stopped at midnight. I
It's
there's
so crazy.
Yeah, and
Even if you like go to like a sports game here, like you go to a Giants game or a Warriors game, they'll have an announcement be like, BART stops running in 15 minutes, and you see like a quarter of the crowd just leave.
oh yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
crazy that there's no being like, hey, maybe we should have BART open a little bit later. It's just like, nope.
I feel like there's talk about, I don't know, several years ago about doing it, and I remember reading some of the arguments against it. It was about keeping bars open later is going to cause more crime, and like people going out at 9 o'clock or going to drink as much as humanly possible, within that allotted time between 9 and 12, or and I don't think it's going to change. It's just going to be
No.
earlier crime or later crime, or I don't know. It's silly to me. I used to bartend in New York as well, so bars close at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you get
Yeah.
out at
New
six
York's
o'clock
such
in
a
the morning.
different experience. Like you can just go all night in New York and it's just no big deal. Also,
Oh
like
yeah,
people go out and they're partying until like 5 a.m. and they're like, oh yeah, I have to work at 7 in the morning. It's fine.
oh that was me. Yeah,
It's yeah, I'm just like, I don't know how you do that. I have like a
I
very positive view on Chicago. I think just being from that was like the nearest big city. So
mhm,
I'm still like, oh wow, it's like the big city. I still consider like Chicago one of the coolest cities in the world. And I know that's
yeah.
probably not actually true.
I mean I'm still having a case of the honeymoon phase with Chicago, so I'll agree with you right now that it
Yeah.
is a very fantastic city.
But I
And
think it's just so cool to see like the whole porn scene really start to rise up from there. And I feel like there's so many
mhm,
people making porn there.
there are, like in my neighborhood, I in my apartment building, there are, this wasn't intentional moving here. I'm counting in my head. There's at least 5 uh, sex workers, of full service sex
Hmm.
workers, and pornographers, and across the street, there are, like, you can't throw a rock without hitting a mutual, and I feel like that's kind of amazing, and it feels a little kismet to have landed here. Like, because I moved here um, when the pandemic was in full effect,
Okay.
and I was able to travel and see the place, but like a lot of things weren't open, and
Hmm.
so I'm like, I'm hoping I'm guessing a good neighborhood, and I signed a 1 year lease, and I chose correctly. So, um, but anyway, Chicago is a wonderful town. Um, but I'm trying to circle back to see if I answered your question about getting into porn. Um, yeah, I think it was yeah, Oakland. Lived right across the street from Eli's on MLK.
Oh my God, really? I used to
Mhm.
live on Brockhurst right there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't live
Yeah,
there anymore, so I can give out the address. That's fine.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was 37th. 30,
Really?
yeah, like right across the street. It was
Okay. I was on MLK and Brockhurst, so I think that's like 33rd.
yeah, so it's very
Wow.
close. 4 blocks away. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone who was making porn lived in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 people that lived a block away from me that I would make porn with. And Vicky Weiss lived in uh that apartment for 10 years at least before we
Oh,
moved
wow.
in together. And it just kind of it was really cool old storefronts. I'm not positive if this is true, but I heard it was the original Marcus Books
Oh, really?
storefront, which is the oldest bookstore in Oakland. I'm not sure if you're aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it further down by like MacArthur Bart?
Yeah, very close to
Yeah.
MacArthur Bart.
Hmm.
So I'm not, don't quote me on that, not positive, but it was, you know, the oldest bookstore in fully black owned and run bookstore. That was pretty awesome. But it created a very good space for porn because it was the
Hmm.
storefront was the front room was completely like 20-foot tall ceilings and tiled floors and um, had to kind of work around the noise of the streets, but having somewhat more directional mics eventually helped that. And yeah, I shot, trying to think, one of the first things besides Vicky and I shooting together was with either Ruby Riots
Oh, yeah.
or Lita Letras from
Yeah.
that apartment.
Those are in both of them are in my BDSM collective. So
Yeah, I've
yeah.
seen in East Bay Brats and a
Yeah.
few others. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so crazy to think about how many people were really living in that neighborhood because Nikki Silver was shooting all of her hairy fetish website there. Trouble
Hmm.
Films were just in Emeryville right there, which was like
Oh yeah.
walking distance. Susie Q was
Yeah, I was about
there.
to say Susie Q was my neighbor at a different, just right around the corner.
Yeah,
She was
yeah,
my neighbor across the street. We used to hang out.
yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, that's like 2 blocks from where I lived. Wow,
Okay. Yeah.
that's so crazy just that many people are shooting there. Also, James Darling was shooting FTM Fucker like 3 blocks away.
Hmm.
Like there was just so much porn being made at the time that you could just like literally walk by a house and be like, "Oh yeah, I know people shooting porn there right now," which is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
crazy to
Exactly.
think about.
It is, and I kind of wonder what the normies, is that fair to say? I guess people with normal jobs, regular jobs. If sometimes feel like they have to know. Other times, like I bet they're completely oblivious to this, like what's
I
happening
feel
downstairs. Or
Yeah, I feel like there was some people who kind of knew, but I also feel like a lot of people were just like very oblivious to it because I think a
Mhm.
lot of people still think of porn stars and they think of like blonde, big boobs, like LA.
But yeah, very mainstream,
Yeah.
heteronormative. Yeah,
And
yeah, it's,
everyone who like was doing porn around there were either like heavily tattooed, alternative, or queer or something, where it
mhm.
wasn't like you would see them on the train and be like, oh, they're the biggest porn star ever.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, um, I also shoot content for people,
Mhm.
and um, people would show up in full makeup occasionally, and there was clown porn that happened,
Oh yeah.
and I shot this person that showed up. This amazing, amazing makeup and
Uh-huh.
outfit, and I mean, I guess that neighborhood nobody's going to look twice, but
No, there was some crazy shit that happened in that neighborhood aside from
yeah,
porn.
yeah, definitely. So I feel like if it was Lake Merritt or Piedmont or something like that, it might draw a bit more attention.
Yeah, probably.
And yeah, so I was still figuring everything out as far as I had shot things on my phone before,
Mhm.
which I still will use. I like phones have gotten so good, the video
Yeah, it's
cameras, but
crazy. Yeah, I got the new iPhone just for the camera on it, and we've had multiple set days where like, oh, someone forgot their memory card, and we could just shoot everything
mm,
on the phone, and it looks just as good. And it's so crazy
yeah,
that it's like that now.
I I'm yeah, I have a newer Android that has
Hmm.
yeah, I can shoot in what 8K now, which I don't know why I would
I
ever
didn't even
want to
know
do
that
that.
was a thing.
Yeah, I think I can be a bit of a Luddite, so I know it shoots in 5K.
Yeah, I didn't even
I
know
think
that was a thing either. So
okay, yeah. I mean,
I'm not very good at tech stuff, honestly.
I'm learning. I'm better at tech stuff as far as I guess it's more analog tech.
Mm,
And but yeah, many now I have so many video just cameras and I paid a lot of money for. And the thing that I carry in my pocket shoots just as well. It sometimes it makes me happy. Other times I am a little flustered because I'm like I have all these lenses and different. You know, I use them all together simultaneously. And, um, but at the time, I think it was a shoot with Lita. I was like, okay, she had brought her camera
hmm.
and I had mine. I'm like, I think I have the video because I've done photography for going on 3 decades,
Oh wow.
which um, but video on an actual camera is fairly new to me. And
Hmm.
I mean, I say 5 or 6 years and 5 years, I guess. The caffeine from that tea is definitely kicking in. Um, um, uh, but yeah, I was still like, how does this work? I'm like, I know everything about the just taking photographs with the camera, but film was so different. Like I can slow my shutter down this slow and it's not going to get blurry. Um, and it's actually one of my favorite things that I filmed because it's a I dommed her and Vicky Vice in a piss play throat fucking scene, and it was just so far away. Um, because I don't think I used. I think I used a prime lens when I should have just used something I could
Hmm.
zoom in with. And um, I turned it into a silent film, um, only because the audio was just it was terrible, and I didn't even think about the audio. This is before I bought mics, um, and I actually I think we all like it better as a silent film, to be honest, because it I added uh, subtitles or what are they called in silent film? I forget the my friend Bowie, if she listens to this, will be very they've told me many times. Title cards. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. That took too long to get to, but um so yeah, I put title cards in where it was very like old timey. It had old timey like piano music, and it's ridiculous
I
because it's
feel
like
like that really fits BDSM though. I feel like you can do so many like reference points back to like old film or like even just like black and white stuff that looks so aesthetically pleasing with it. I think
yeah,
it's just so cool that you can work all those things into particularly BDSM porn because I feel like so much porn there's so many limitations because it's like oh someone has to get off but with BDSM you're already kind of doing something that's outside of the
just
people who just want to see like a dick go in a vagina over and over again.
yeah, and the cum shot, and then
Hmm.
well, it was over. Yeah, that's that is something I think about quite frequently to be honest, is
Mhm.
not only in porn but also in my personal sex life, because BDSM is often part of it, and is it feels more like a dance to me. I don't know if that. I mean, regular sex is a lot of fun. I very much enjoy it, but and I often almost always involve sex with BDSM.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Although I know it's not always something that needs to be combined. But yeah, I feel like it's the focus, like you just said, is it definitely opens the door for more creativity.
Mhm.
Because personally, like when I watch porn, I can only watch so much in and out before I'm like, okay, like I've seen this like a million times, and no matter how hot the two people or three people or 10 people are, it gets a little old.
Yeah.
But that's my taste.
Yeah, I can't watch vanilla porn anymore. It just does nothing for me. Like it's not
Yeah,
even like on my radar. I'm like, okay, I have to
I
watch
tr
BDSM essentially, but I think my problem now is the porn I'm shooting and the porn I'm watching are way too close together now.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've
so
definitely been there. I actually tried the other day to watch. I'm like, I can watch regular porn and get off. It was a personal challenge of mine, and I I gave it the college try, and it just I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm going somewhere else. Um, and yeah, I'm no longer a 15 or 16-year-old kid, and it just is. I feel like there's so much more to explore. And could I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Um, have you ever? This is a personal question, so
Okay, okay.
uh,
I think it's fine.
have you ever gotten off to your own porn, watching your own
Yeah,
porn?
yes, really early in my career because I wanted to prove I could do it.
Okay.
And then I was like, I'm good. I don't need to do this again. It was like my first or second scene.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can do that now. Can you? Can you masturbate to your own porn?
I can't. I don't really try. I feel like I'm too attached to the process of making it that
Yeah.
I guess I have. If something really, it's typically something I'll find from like something I did a few years ago, and I'm like, I forgot how hot this was, and I no longer have that close attachment to it. But I if I try to, I'm typically like, oh, that angle's a little off, or like,
Yeah. I feel like I
why did
would
I do that?
be like, why do I sound like that? That sounds terrible. Like, I feel like I would hyper criticize myself. But like, I bet
Yeah,
there are people who are like, I only watch my own porn, like the way is like athletes who are like, I rewatch my film every single day.
yeah.
It
I mean,
probably does make you a better performer, but like, I don't think I can handle seeing that much of myself all the time.
I have watched it for that, um, just to see what I could potentially do better, and like, am I projecting enough as as a dom, or um, does that sound commanding enough? Is that
I feel
and
like you should get like a voice coach who's like giving you all like the practice things to do for a for like vocal warm-ups before a scene.
um, was it yeah, speak from the diaphragm. I'm reading all the
Yeah.
other the vocal warm-ups.
Yeah, like breath control, all of that.
Yeah, was it yellow banana, yellow? I'm totally pulling this out of my ass. There's like a something people do before speaking on the radio. That's I'm not. I'll remember it as soon as
Yeah, I
we
don't.
stop this. Um, but yeah, that's the. It's interesting because I feel like everybody I've asked this question has been like, no, I never watch my own porn.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's just too much of myself, honestly. Like for me with BDSM porn though, it's so much like I want to have these experiences that are really extreme or whatever. But I feel like the only way I can safely have them is on a porn set. Because like trying to organize a gangbang in real life crazy. You have to
Hmm.
get like 10 people. You're probably gonna find people you barely know you don't really know their history of
Hmm.
all their
Very
stuff. But
true.
in porn, I feel like you can really do that and be like, okay, I know these people and they've worked with this person and they've worked with this person. And also just like with these things, I want it documented, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Where I'm like, if I'm gonna do these extreme things, like I've done like gangbangs in real life before, and after it, I'm just like, oh, I wish I had the content out of it, you know?
I have, yeah, I definitely understand that. Where I feel like there's a fine line between, for myself,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like monetizing everything,
Yeah.
where I'm like, it's a new partner that I'm fucking, and like, let me grab my camera so we can film this. And like, I've been trying to um, exercise living in the moment a little more, which, yeah, it's definitely an interesting and difficult thing to do. But um, I forget the point you just made that I wanted to speak on.
Oh, I was just talking about how I almost view it more as like all these fantasies are more of like an art thing I can capture than a real life thing.
Yeah, and what you were saying about safety as well,
Yeah.
I feel like is it. I feel like there there's a stigma obviously around pornography and sex work in general,
Hmm.
and I just wish there was more education, because having a gangbang or rough sex or
Hmm.
something, CNC or anything, like when you're doing it with people that, for one, have been tested,
Hmm.
um, you know typically who they work with, that if something goes wrong, it stops, and
Yeah.
you're not really rolling the dice as much as um, something, I was going to say in real life, as like that's not real life, but this
In the
meeting
wild.
in the wilds of, yeah, the seedy hotels and whatnot, which I enjoy as well, to be honest. But I feel like the safety, consent, there's a lot more involved, and people's names are on the line and their
Yeah,
careers. And so if you do something non-consensual or act like an asshole, then you're going to get checked, and good for that.
for
Um,
sure.
I wish that happened more often, to be honest. But that's consent in general, and um, I think that's something that I occasionally struggle with, just because I do film very occasionally, like very, very intense
Hmm.
uh, consensual non-consent, and um, I don't like saying the word, but the RAPE fantasy
Hmm.
type stuff, or home intruder, or just very, very hard stuff. And my biggest fear is that there's going to be a teenage boy or 20 something year old.
Hmm.
I'm being gender specific because I feel like there are so many very young doms that are male,
Yeah.
cis male, that don't know what they're doing and could potentially hurt somebody.
Hmm.
That's something that I don't feel guilty about doing what I'm doing. I'm considering having. I used to do intro and exit interviews, and
Yeah.
a lot of my videos just to be like, okay, this is consensual. This is happening
Hmm.
between two consenting adults. We have a safe word. Like we're ordering a pizza afterwards. Like they're
Yeah.
like, it doesn't continue like throughout the day. And not that there's anything wrong with
Hmm.
people that have those type of relationships, but um, it's something that I occasionally, as somebody, as a dom that is male presenting, and
Hmm.
that somebody's going to see it and be like, that's okay to do somebody without asking, or
Yeah.
so I've been thinking about putting disclaimers on my website, and also like on stuff that I produce myself, just I'm trying to figure out how to do that in a way that people will actually read it, rather than, because I feel like people kind of skip to the action. So like it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm never watching the pre-interviews when I'm like, I need to get off to some porn. I don't want to watch the interview of the girl being like, oh yeah, this is something I thought was hot for 5 years. I'm
right.
like, oh, that's good for you, girl, but I'm here
I
to
feel like,
watch the scene.
yeah, exactly. I've actually enjoyed watching kind of the post interviews. I
Mhm.
I find something hot about that. Um I know that CrashPad does that quite often.
Yep, they do. Yeah, every scene.
And there's I feel like it definitely plays into consent, where it's like, I like, did you like about it? Like, I really like this part. This is amazing. And yeah, I'm considering bringing them back to my own, as long as
I'm
people will stick around. I'm hoping
I'm
they'll stick
kind of
around.
mixed about it. I did some
Yeah.
mainstream porn and I like literally came. I was like still coming and they started doing the interview like during that
Oh
essentially.
my
And I was just
God.
like, wait, like, are we
How?
talking like serious like on video right now? Or are we like just talking regular?
Right.
Like sometimes in those scenes, like it just rubbed me the wrong way where I'm like, I understand why they have them and stuff, but it also just feels a little bit like, okay, I just performed in a porn scene right now. I want like 15 minutes to decompress.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I
Little
feel like
self
it's
care.
almost like the same as like when they run up to the athlete right after the game finished. I'm like, that feels a little strange. Like,
Still
you just
catching their
went
breath.
through a major thing. Let everyone settle down for a minute.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's um I I'm not sure like when it became a theme in porn, but I've definitely been seeing more like, I don't know why, um like people getting interviewed while fucking,
Really? I've never
like
seen that.
the entire, like, just asking them like, what's your favorite type of food, um what did you study in college, what was your major, like. And I'm like, I'm kind of fast, it doesn't do anything for me, doesn't turn me on, but I'm kind of fascinated by it, because they're like, there's like, they're getting fucked, they're like, I can't answer this question. My brain is short circuiting. And like, while, somebody's giving them a blowjob or going down on them, it's just like how it's kind of, I guess I find it amusing, because it's kind of like short circuiting somebody's brain. And
Yeah, I'm not even a bratty sub, but I'd be like, stop asking me fucking questions.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
performing in
exactly.
porn right now.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, did you just like naturally bring what you were doing here to Chicago? Was it a pretty easy transition, or was there a little bit of difficulty in just like finding a community there?
It was incredibly easy. I did not anticipate that. I had spoken with a few creators out here, previous to even deciding to move out
Hmm.
here. And um, within, with no plans, within, I think it was 2 weeks, I met somebody who shot my first porn here. I just finished unpacking, and it
Wow.
just continued. Like, it was a snowball effect where it just kept happening. And it was where it's just like, this is, honestly, it was easier in many regards than the San Francisco Bay Area, because, which I'm not sure if I have to emphasize that. I'm still fairly new to Chicago, where I'm like, if I say the Bay Area, they're going to think Wisconsin, Milwaukee, or
No one says the Bay. What? I'm offended by that.
I don't think they
Oh
do.
my
But
God. Even when people from Tampa Bay are like the Bay, I'm like, you're
no,
not the Bay. Stop
yeah,
saying that shit.
yeah,
Wow. My full like Bay Area shit just came out right there. I was like
yeah.
offended by you saying the Bay meaning Wisconsin.
Like, everybody is correcting me. They're like, no, that we know what the Bay Area means. It's San Francisco. I'm like, okay, like, 'cause I think I mentioned Oakland at one point
Yeah.
to somebody, and somebody's like, "Oh, you mean the college?" I'm like,
Oh, that is the thing.
"Yeah," and
It's in
I
yeah, outside of Detroit. It's in Auburn Hills, if you know where that is.
have a vague idea where that is. Yeah.
It's where Great Lakes Crossings Mall is
Oh, okay.
and
Oh, yeah.
where
Okay.
the Palace was.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like it was once again. I moved here with my partner at the time,
Hmm.
and we're both porn creators, so it made it
Yeah.
that was very easy because we just continue doing what we're doing, and then yeah, it was just incredibly easy to network, and I'm yeah, I'm excited. People, I feel like being somewhat, I mean, in the center of the country, people also are more willing to travel, especially if they're on
Hmm.
the East Coast or West Coast, or people from Vegas have come up, and um, I didn't really think about that, but it definitely made things easier. We've had a lot of people that have wanted to work with me just fly out or even drive, and it's we have a large enough space that we can put people up and shoot
Yeah.
for a day or two and get a bunch of content done, and have somebody coming in at, I think in a week. Got to see it. We're approaching the end of January already.
Yeah,
Uh,
we are. It's going so fast.
It really is. That's hard to believe. I feel like New Year's was yesterday.
Yeah. I feel like
But
there's just a like a friendliness in Chicago still. Like even though it has like the big city vibe, I feel like there's a lot of like the Midwestern small townness, like friendliness that still exists there.
yeah, yeah, there definitely is. It's kind of it's a friend of mine when I first moved here is like, she's like, people are going to be really friendly here because it was the summer, because
Hmm.
it's really nice outside, but wait until winter. And I moved here last June, and um, winter came, and like people are still saying hi on the street,
Yeah.
passing me, or like asking how my day is. Like I like just very like at first it was very, I was very taken aback. Like, what do you
Yeah.
want? Why are you asking me? What do you want from me? And now I've kind of embraced it. It's a, it's one of the biggest cities in the world,
Yeah.
and it is very urban, but it's still like in the Midwest, I guess.
Yeah.
And
That's what I love about it. It like as soon as I get off the plane there, it's just like a whole different vibe where it's
yeah,
like the first time I took my fiance to the Midwest, they're originally from San Jose and lived in the Bay Area their whole life. And they're just
mhm.
like, we went out to eat and they're like, oh, sorry, it took an extra 10 minutes. So we took half off your bill. And there's like,
Wow,
that's a thing people do. I'm like, oh, yeah, people are just like pretty friendly here. Or there's like, oh, yeah, we just gave you free drinks because, and it's
yeah,
just so different in the Midwest because in the Bay Area, that would never happen. People are like trying to charge you double for things.
yeah. No, that's true, because there's a place that I occasionally go for pizza, and like every once in a while they're like, I go to pay, they're like, nah, don't worry about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're you're a mom, and you're a small independent pizza, but like, you can't do this. How are you going to stay open? And yeah, I think there's definitely that. There's also a with that, and or in conjunction to that, I feel like there's a lot of politically active people here
Hmm.
that um, Chicago has a long history of workers'
For sure.
rights, and
Yeah. The
and
40-hour work week really came out of Chicago.
it did, yeah. We can thank anarchists for that,
Hmm.
and um, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of mutual aid groups here. I went to a swap event a couple of weeks ago, and I live down the street from a Food Not Bombs, and there's, in addition to that, there's also uh, a food pantry and people that volunteer. And I feel like that happens in all cities, but it's just going to say this, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I feel like it's a little less performative here. I feel like it's people like
Yeah.
this is just what I'm supposed to do, or I feel like this is my obligation to fellow humans.
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain humbleness in the Midwest where it's like, oh, I'm just doing this because it's the right thing to do. It's not like I think maybe in like New York or LA or even San Francisco where people want to be seen doing good things and they
Yeah,
want to be patted on the back and be like, oh, wow, they're the leader of this or this. Where in the Midwest, you just kind of do nice things because you're like, oh, well, it's a nice way to do things. And
yeah.
honestly, even moving to the Bay, I have to unlearn a lot of like my Midwestern niceness because it doesn't really work here. Because you'll
People
try to
can
be
take
nice
advantage of it.
people and people always take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of felt that way moving New York City to and Brooklyn in specific
Mhm.
to San Francisco, or not San Oakland, I guess, where I I don't know if people were friendlier. It was I felt like I was immersed in Jello for the first year of living in the Bay
Mhm.
Area because I felt like it moved much slower. People walked slower. People did things
Yeah,
slower, and
compared to New York, it's a whole different speed in New York. You don't walk fast enough, people are like, get the fuck out of the way.
oh, it's true.
People
And
don't say that shit in Oakland because they don't know if you're gonna like fight them or
yeah,
have a
yeah,
gun
exactly.
or any
Yeah,
number of things that could happen.
but I feel like it was very healthy for me though because I
Mhm.
like living in that intensity. I got a lot done, but I feel like mental health wise, I feel like slowing down a little bit, learning
Mhm.
to breathe and not having to get somewhere at breakneck speed just to get there. It, it was challenging. I'd say it definitely took a year where I would walk down a street in San Francisco. I'm like, why are you not walking fast? Why are you walking like just shuffling down the street?
Yeah, it's just such a different speed here. I think all of the West Coast is just a different speed. It's like a lot more chill than
Hmm.
particularly in New York. I think New York's probably like the fastest city I've ever been to where everyone's going a million miles per hour and everyone's ready to cuss you out at any moment. But it's not even like a personal thing. It's just like what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely in Midtown. Um, I've only driven a car in New York City twice. Yeah, twice, and only because the first time was driving in Midtown Manhattan,
Hmm.
and um, it's the scariest thing I think I've ever experienced, or one of the scariest things, where it's before the light turns green, people are laying on their horns
Yep.
and just going, like no matter if you're ready. Like
Yeah.
I drove back to Brooklyn, and when I got back, I had two yellow stripes on either side of my car because
Oh
taxis
my
were
God.
creating their own lanes, and just it was
Damn.
luckily it was a $300 car that was falling apart. But and I was like, this is the last time I don't need a car in New York. I
It's
finding
such a
parking.
magical city, but at the same so I dated a native New Yorker for 2 years, and they're
Mhm.
like, this city's magical. It's great, but it's also the most disgusting place on the planet. And just like really seeing that stuff, like I was on the phone with them and they were walking off the subway to work and they stepped on a live rat. And I'm just like, no, this
Yeah.
isn't
Uh,
a like a place that I want to really be.
I had a job working at this they went out of business a few years ago, I guess. It was an underground uh, book fetish kind of porn store and music. It had a bit of everything called See Here. Um, they had relocated from 7th Street to St. Mark's Place,
Hmm.
and they moved into what used to be the uh, first Manic Panic store, Fish and Sticky's Manic Panic, and
Hmm.
who they're like really sweet, would drop by and say hello and like check on the shop and be like, oh, like it looks the same, or what have you done with it? Or very kind women. And but when it was dead there, like during slow times, one of my jobs was to go to the basement with a big big piece of cardboard and leave the lights off until I got completely down, and turn the lights on really fast, throw the cardboard down and start stomping on all the cockroaches. And then you pick the cardboard up and they would just still be there. And this was literally in my job description.
Oh my God.
And it's nothing, and the store was clean. It's just New York has roaches and rats, very big rats.
I have a really good Chicago roach story. So I had a flight. I was flying from Manchester, England to Chicago. And like I would say 80% of the flight was just like British families on their way to like Disneyland for whatever reason with their little kids. And it's their first time to America and they're all so excited. Then we get off in Chicago and there's this family right in front of me. And a roach, like it was huge. I thought it was a mouse at first. It ran out. And then this employee ran out and just started stomping the shit out of it with his feet.
Oh,
and
wow.
they're just like aghast. And he's just like, welcome to Chicago. And
Was
like the kids are just horrified.
was that I keep on thinking,
O'Hare.
I don't know why in my head I switched Heathrow and O'Hare. I'm like, was that Heathrow? I'm like, no, it wasn't.
No, nope. It was actually from Manchester. So
oh, right,
even like a more random British city.
Yeah.
But
O'Hare, yeah. Was it in the airport of O'Hare?
Yes, it was walking to customs. It was like right as you get into the thing of like, welcome to America.
That's amazing. Wow.
It was like, I could not give a better summary of the American experience for someone entering the country being like, oh, this is going to be magical. We're walking into America. And then just some guy stomping a cockroach and be like, welcome to Chicago.
Yeah. There was remember being on lunch from that the job I was talking about a moment ago, and crossing Third Avenue or Second Avenue, and in the crosswalk, I looked down and there's a roach literally using the crosswalk with me.
Oh my
and
God.
like I'm like, this, it looks so intentional. I'm like, I just was imagining it like having a cup of coffee and like a newspaper, like going on my lunch break, and it walked. I watched it all the way across the street, and I just kind of took a left on the Second Avenue and kept on walking. And I'm like, they're becoming sentient beings. Yeah, roaches.
Yeah.
And rats. And Chicago
I mean, when
definitely
you
has rats.
think about how long some of those rats have lived in New York for, like they've been there probably for like hundreds of years of generations. Oh, yeah. Like they're probably the most real New Yorkers of them all.
That's true. We have a lot of rats in our alleys.
You do.
In Chicago.
Yeah. I smoked weed with one of my friends in an alley and there were so many rats. It was just like, if you weren't in a punk band, I would not do this with you. Basically.
Yeah. I mean, even like really nice neighborhoods. I was walking down the street the other day and I got off the bus, was just going home, and I saw a rat like run into like a crack between two buildings, and it quickly turned around. I have no idea why, and it just ran directly at me. It was startled, and
oh my God,
I didn't know what
that's
to
like
do.
Straight up nightmare fuel for me. Rats and mice are like my biggest phobias.
I mean, honestly, like I wouldn't want to hold a rat. I have held a rat before. It's with male rats. it's the giant balls and the tail.
Oh, honestly, if it wasn't for the tail, I think I'd be way less afraid of them because then it's just like a squirrel or whatever. That's fine. But like that, it has the tail with no hair on it. That's the creepy shit to me.
Me too. I don't know why it creeps me out so much.
I don't know.
Like you said, it would not bother me otherwise. Like even those giant nuts, they have the biggest nuts in the world. But yeah, but that rat the other day, like I think we're both mutually scared.
Yeah,
because we both like kind of jumped. We're like, oh no, like, and I like, ran into somebody next to me, and the rat wasn't looking where it was going. I didn't think a rat was going to run directly at me, and I've never had that experience in my life. I hope I never do again. Um,
So I have two more questions for you. First
sure.
off, like, thanks so much for chatting about all things BDSM porn and Chicago and all this. Like, also, it's so nice to know that you started doing stuff in the Bay. I feel like this keeps happening on this podcast where I think of someone being from a different city, but then they just started in the Bay and kind of took it wherever.
Yeah. Also, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's a privilege and an honor.
Yeah, of course. So you've been doing this for quite a while. I feel like the average porn career is only like a year. So you've extended your stay quite a bit.
Hmm.
What do you still want to accomplish in your career that you haven't so far?
Oh, that's a hard question. There's so much. I would like to shoot in Europe.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
um, I would definitely like to do a very large gangbang. Um,
How many is very large?
I would like to do up to 30 or 50. And I know
Oh, damn. That's fucking
that
amazing.
I don't know if
50?
it's I don't know if it will be possible, but um, yeah, I guess I'm thinking specifically of scenes. I've never done. I would like to do. I don't know if it should be called reverse bukkake or not, but have people that can squirt on me. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
actually not. I'm not really subby. That's the only time I think about being kind of
I've
associated.
done one of those, but with one person who could squirt endlessly, and they squirted on my face, I think like 30 times.
Wow.
And
Okay.
straight up, oh, I went to Chicago afterwards. That's when I actually smoked weed in the alley
With the
with
rats.
rats. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was like a week after the shoot, and I could still taste all of her squirt in my sinuses because I was like back. So they
Okay.
were continuously squirting on me.
Yeah.
So I would just like beware of your sinuses if you do that.
Yeah. I could. I had an experience a couple of days ago actually, where I'm like, why am I still spelling it? Um, and I'd showered, I'd washed my face. I was like, oh, I didn't like use a neti pot, or like I need to flush my sinuses, um, because they were definitely there was a lot of squirt, a lot. Like, and luckily we brought a waterproof blanket to the hotel because it would have been, I'm sure there would have been a fee tacked onto that one. But yeah, I trying to think of other things that I would like to accomplish. More film festivals, actually in where there's another film festival coming up.
Mhm.
Um, I guess it's not, I don't know the details yet, if it's going to be a festival or just focusing on Bound by Shadows, a couple of films that we've made.
Mhm.
And they're putting out a limited edition VHS of some of our stuff that we've made. So that's something
Mhm.
that I've actually wanted to do, is put something on VHS, and that's coming up
That's really cool.
right around the corner. I didn't ask for it; it just came to me. So
Oh, really? Even
yeah,
better.
so the universe was definitely providing at that moment.
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s, so it's still like a VHS. I'm still like, wow, that's so real. That's like a real movie.
Yeah, I don't know why it feels more real. I do need to get a VHS player though, so I can
Yeah,
watch
I
it.
definitely do not have one, but hopefully that becomes the cool new thing, like how everyone started buying record players again. Hopefully that
Mhm.
continues
I
with
feel
VHS.
I feel like it has the with the festival that one of your films was part of, that
Hmm.
last April.
Yeah, the Leather Archives.
Yeah, um, that was. Remind me the name of the film again.
It's a very good question.
Okay, I
Oh,
remember the.
Shelter Slut. Yeah, I shot it with Courtney.
Yeah,
So that was like when COVID picked back up last January, and we're like, let's shoot together, but I don't want to do any like fluid anything.
Mhm.
And the person who was shooting it was wearing a mask at all times. So we
Okay.
found a way to completely do that. We did like a dick on the stick thing. We had to make our
Yeah.
own though, because there was not a dick on the stick there. So we just grabbed a cane and like a
I re-
knife and we carved a dick out.
really that
Yeah.
it looked that's amazing because it looked really good.
Thanks.
I didn't. It's interesting to hear that because it was I wouldn't have thought of it as watching it as being a way of avoiding or being safe about COVID. It just seemed like you were kind of being tortured with orgasms.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both, you know. I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of BDSM was pretty applicable to that, where it's like, oh, I'm isolated, no human contact, but getting fucked by things. I'm like, that works, you know?
yeah, yeah. And but there was a performer, um, Felicia Fisher.
Yeah. She was
She
actually the first guest on this podcast.
really okay. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
She's
she's fucking amazing.
very amazing, very very kind, sweet human. And she had worked with John Doe, and they had filmed something entirely on VHS or entire sorry on I think it was VHS
Hmm.
directly to a camcorder type
It's so
scenario,
fucking cool.
and then took it and recorded over and over to diminish the fidelity of it and the
I love
quality.
that.
And it worked really well because it was gore porn, and they did a really good job with the gore, but I think it was very forgiving for things that it's difficult to having an independent company make it look completely
Hmm.
real. And it definitely lended itself to like this is pretty believable. And it was about a couple being on their honeymoon and killing somebody in a hotel and vomiting on the body, and Felicia like pissed on the body at one point,
Yeah, of
and
course.
and it was amazing.
I just love like all the porn from Chicago is just like so dark and alternative and stuff that it's just like that is like the coolest thing to me.
Hmm.
Because I think like it's just like a very specific kind of porn. I feel like with so many cities, there isn't like a specific kind of porn being made there. I think some places there are like Australia, all of like Australian girl porn is like outside and everyone has like a huge bush and like underarm hair and all this stuff and like looks
Hmm.
totally natural. And I love that Chicago has this like dark porn vibe now.
There definitely is, although I feel like it depends on who you work with. um I say that, but my friend Bowie and I collaborate quite often, and we've made a lot of parody. We did a Frankenhooker parody,
But even that,
which
it's like horror adjacent.
it's true. I think I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this wasn't dark. Like it was pretty dark. We also did a sacrilege film with like so much fake blood that where um, we're spitting the fake blood on a Bible, and there's I forget what the verse was about something very just I don't know, like anti sin, anti lust. I don't know much about the Bible. I don't care to.
Yeah, I'm
But it was just very puritanical, obviously after or before Puritans existed. But we screened that film at the Leather Archives for that festival, and I honestly thought it was kind of fun and
mhm.
lighthearted somehow. Like I played a Bowie and I were um, they were like the devil's concubine. I played
I
a
love that.
priest who was actually Satan, and
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and we played it, and as part of the film festival that you're a part of your film is part of it as well.
Hmm.
And after every film, there was some kind of reaction, like people clapped or laughed, or and there's one sole person in the audience who was like, "Whoa!" And that was it. That
Yeah,
was,
like
and we're like, "Was that good or bad?" And like people left. I think they thought all the blood was real, and because there's a ridiculous amount, and
hmm.
which I'm in the market for blood that is not as sticky as that, because fucking or getting it on my dick was just at one
Oh
point
yeah, you
like I had to
can't
have,
get prop liquid on your junk. It doesn't work out.
it's just sticky. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, no.
Um, and I feel like I could have used some cinema magic, and I'm like, okay, we're using just food coloring this time around.
Yeah. I think you'll find the right thing eventually. I feel like so much of like the stuff with props and porn is just trial and error. And as long as the air is not too bad and no one gets a UTI, it's
Yeah.
good.
So far, so good. All right. Um, that was a very long-winded answer, but
But that's good. This is what this podcast is for, giving performers full context and actually being able to share your real narrative. Because like most things with press with us, they're just like, tell us why your porn is good or why other porn is bad. Like it's
yeah.
just kind of this bullshit, not actually wanting to hear the full context. So any long-winded
Sure.
answers are great. So I have one final question for you. This is the only
Okay.
kind of like out there sort of question.
Okay.
Let's say you wake up tomorrow and one thing can magically be changed in porn. What would you have it be?
Um, this has to be just one thing. um,
You can do more, I guess.
um, I would like sexual predators to be ostracized in the way they
Yeah,
should, and people not to
get
work
the
with
fuck
them.
out.
And yeah, that would be probably the first go-to.
Mm-hmm.
I would like there to be more talk about consent and more
Yeah,
education about, especially involving things that involve BDSM or
yeah,
harder play, and also people using the rack system, and uh, yeah, I guess, and continuation of people navigating more toward independent creators
yeah,
and content, and
for
people
sure.
paying, and also people paying for their porn. That's several answers, but
Yeah, you should probably be paying for whatever art you're consuming, whether it's music, film, porn,
yeah,
anything. You should probably be paying someone for that.
I feel like people don't feel that way. I feel like there is, with music there is a whole like anti-piracy thing, and also movies,
Yeah,
films. I feel like with porn, people just assume it is free because of so many hub sites, and it's. I'm glad that people are able to get a release, but they should be paying for it, in my
I
opinion.
think there's a positive thing about shooting BDSM porn because we are kind of our own little environment. Where I think
Hmm.
people who are really into BDSM appreciate BDSM porn, so they'll like actually pay for it because it's like within community.
That's a
But I
very good
think like
point.
more mainstream porn, people don't give a fuck. Like my mainstream
Yeah,
like waspy porn I shot in New England when I was like 20, people steal that shit all the fucking time.
yeah. It's so difficult to have people not pirate it.
Hmm.
If it's on, nothing has been pirated from my own website that I know of yet, but on other sites, other platforms, I used to battle it and get them taken down, but it's just way too much energy that goes into
It's
it.
really hard to fight it. I just hate when people like come into my camera room when I'm camming and they're like, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan," and I'll be like, "Oh, what did you buy of my porn?" And they're like, "No, it's all free though." I'm like, I don't know
No,
about
it's
that.
not. Yeah,
It's not though.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely pay for your porn, and
Yeah,
or at least pay for some of your porn.
yeah. I think
Okay.
that's a very feasible thing everyone can do.
Hmm.
That would improve, I think, every porn performer's experience. But even if it's not like what it was in the 90s, like where porn performers were making millions of dollars and shit,
Right.
like I
Yeah,
think just being able to afford just the basic stuff, I think would be really good. I think decrim definitely goes with that too, because
certainly.
even
Yeah,
though even if we start making more money, these banks can still kind of just shut down your accounts because whatever reason, even if you're doing quote unquote legal sex work and paying taxes.
yeah. It takes something like Exodus Cry or another group, and or, yeah, obviously Sesta Fossa and all that did not help with the credit card companies. And I feel like it's a constant battle. Like I was kind of naive when I first started taking money for and selling videos and whatnot, and used
Mhm.
PayPal. And
Oh yeah, that's part of the
they,
industry. You get banned off PayPal in your first year or so.
yeah,
Yep.
and they nearly took my money. They came very close to taking over a grand, and I had to fight them.
Damn.
I had to fight them over it, and um, yeah, there's definitely ways around it now. And I feel like more conversation about that and just more community is definitely
For
very
sure.
important.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everyone find you on social media?
On social media, I am Chris_Koffin. I should probably check that on Twitter. Um, or Kristopher Koffin. All you have to do is type it into Google and you'll find me. Boundvbyshadow.com has all my links. And my link tree is also Kristopher Koffin.
Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed it listening to our long-winded conversation about BDSM.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is
Yeah.
a really good experience.
Great. Thank you. Well, bye, everyone.
Bye bye.